The Joe between stars is not empty. It never was. Rylan had learned this the hard way. Not in any academy, not from any admiral's briefing room, but from 17 years of crossing the dark between solar systems in a vessel that smelled of recycled air and old coffee. The me of who he had been before those years was a stranger now. A boy who thought humans were small. A boy who had not yet seen what New York, that quiet persistence, that refusal to simply stop, actually looked like when it was pressed against something that wanted to end it. He was thinking about none of this when the message arrived. The die had passed 2 weeks ago, the handover of the Kelthry Medical Summit, the signing of 7 protocols that would theoretically open xenobiological research to joint human-alien cooperation. Rylan had been one of 12 human delegates. He had done his job, said nothing remarkable, smiled in the right places, and returned to his posting on Outpost Meridian with a headache and a surplus of Kelthry ceremonial wine he didn't know what to do with. The message came through on a civilian channel. That alone was strange. He almost didn't open it. It was flagged from a Velthary address. The Velthary being among the oldest of the council races, slow to communicate, slower still to initiate contact with high humans, which they considered a charming but exhausting species, like a child who kept touching things in a museum. He opened it. Commander Rylan, forgive this intrusion upon your time. My name is Counselor Vathos of the 3rd House of Velt. My daughter is ill. She has been ill for some years. The physicians say she has perhaps 60 of your days remaining. She has asked for many things in this time, as the ill sometimes do. We have given her what we could. She has one remaining wish. She has asked to see you. Rylan read it 3 times. He had never, to his knowledge, met a Velthary child. He had met Vathos once, briefly, across a conference table during the summit. The counselor had said perhaps 4 words to him directly. Nothing meaningful. Nothing memorable. He wrote back, Counselor, I am sorry to hear this. I'm afraid I don't understand. Why would she want to see me? The reply came faster than he expected for a Velthary. She saw the broadcast footage of the summit. She has seen the footage of the Karen Station incident. She has seen the footage of the Duskfall corridor. She is 11 years old, and she has spent much of her life watching humans in the places where it is most dangerous to be. She says, and I translate imperfectly, that she wants to see, with her own eyes, what a human looks like when it is just standing still. Not running, not fighting, not saving something, just standing. Rylan sat with that for a long time. He took personal leave. The others at the outpost said nothing unusual about it, because Rylan had accumulated more in used leave than anyone in the posting's history, and his commanding officer practically pushed him out the door. He filed no official reason. He booked a civilian transport to Velt Secundus and spent 3 days in a small cabin thinking about what it meant that a dying child had chosen him. Not humanity in the abstract. Not a general. Not a diplomat or a hero. Him, Rylan, a man who had, on several well-documented occasions, made decisions that other species considered suicidally irrational and that humans considered, at worst, mildly reckless. He arrived at the Vathos household, a structure of cooling stone and amber light, built into the side of a pale cliff overlooking a silver sea, on a gray morning. The counselor met him at the entrance. Vathos was tall, as all Velthary were, with the characteristic stillness of a species that measured time in centuries. His face carried something that Rylan, on his use, his best instinct, recognized as grief held at a controlled distance. The grief of someone who had been holding it for a long time and had learned to carry it without showing it moved. Thank you for coming, Vathos said. I did not expect you to. She asked, Rylan said. That's enough. The counselor looked at him with something unreadable. Then he stepped aside. The room was small. The Velthary did not believe in cluttering sick rooms with objects, and so it was spare. A narrow bed, a wide window looking out at the silver sea, and on the bed, a small figure bundled in gray blankets. Alara. She was tiny. All Velthary children were slight, but illness had carved her down further, given her the fragile, precise quality of something made of paper. Her eyes, large, the pale violet of her species, were open and fixed on the doorway before Rylan had fully stepped through it. He stopped. She looked at him. And then, slowly, carefully, she sat up. Her father made a sound, a low note of alarm, and stepped forward, but Alara raised one small hand. A gesture so composed, so entirely deliberate for a child who, by all medical accounts, should not have had the strength for deliberate gestures, that it stopped Faithos cold. She looked at Rylan. Really looked, the way the very young sometimes look at things, without filters, without the performance of looking, just the act itself. Then she said, in careful, rehearsed standard, "You are smaller than I thought." Rylan smiled. He couldn't help it. "I get that a lot." "Not." She paused, choosing words that were clearly not her own language. "Not small like weak. Small like concentrated. Like everything is in a very small space." He crossed the room and sat in the chair beside her bed, because it seemed like the right thing to do. Because standing over her felt wrong. Because she had asked to see him standing still, and he thought, perhaps, that sitting was even stiller. "The Karen station footage," he said. "I looked terrible in that. I didn't know there was a camera." Her lips moved. It might have been a smile. The Veltharies smiled differently, with their eyes more than their mouths. "You were carrying two people," she said. "Through fire. One of them was complaining the whole time," he said. "Which, honestly, helped." A pause. The Silver Sea moved outside the window. "KRNY," she started, then shook her head, switched back to standard. "They say humans do not think about dying the same way we do. That you know you will die, but you do not. You do not let it become the biggest thing." Rylan thought about that carefully, because she deserved a careful answer. "I think," he said slowly, "we do think about it. We also think about the thing right in front of us. And usually the thing right in front of us needs something done about it. So we do that first, and then the next thing. And somewhere in all that doing, there isn't much room left over. Is that why?" She looked at him with those pale violet eyes. "Is that why you keep going into the places where you might not come back?" "Partly," he said honestly. "Partly it's just that someone has to. And we're good at it." And he paused. "And I think, somewhere underneath everything, humans believe that it's possible to make it better. Whatever it is. We can't seem to stop believing that." Alara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I have been very tired. For a long time." "I know," he said. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to see something heroic," she said. "I just wanted to see if you were real. If someone like you, someone who does all of that, was actually real and not just in footage." "Very real," Rylan said. "Embarrassingly real. I spilled coffee on myself on the transport here." She made a sound. It was, unmistakably, a laugh. Small and thin, but real. Her father, standing in the doorway, turned away. Humans were not supposed to see a Velthary counselor cry. Rylan pretended not to notice. He stayed for 3 hours. They talked about the sea outside the window, about what stars looked like from different angles, about whether the Kelthari were as confusing to everyone else as they were to him. She confirmed, "Yes, universally." She fell asleep mid-sentence, very gently, the way children do. Rylan sat for a moment in the quiet room. Then he stood, careful not to make noise, and walked to the window and looked out at the Silver Sea. He had been asked to come here, to cross the dark, to sit beside a child he did not know and simply be real. Simply be a human. Not the footage, not the incident reports, not the legend that apparently 11-year-old Velthary girls collected in the long hours of being ill. Just a man, standing still. He thought about what she had said, concentrated, like everything is in a very small space, and thought she had perhaps understood something that most species spent decades trying to articulate. Outside, the Silver Sea moved. Rylan stood in the quiet and let it. Alara lived for another 4 months, 3 more than the physicians had predicted. In that time, she sent Rylan 11 messages. He answered every one.